But who else is the most powerful? Welcome back, Nerd Squad. Wolverine is one of the most popular characters in comics, which means he gets to have some of the most intense and insane alternates around when it comes to power levels. Today we'll be once more counting down 10 more of the most powerful alternate versions of Wolverine on this part 2. Join me and let's get into it. Number 10. Gwenverine. Gwenverine is an alternate version we've really only seen briefly in Secret Wars Battle World issue number 3, but I like to imagine that she is pretty strong and also pretty cool, like many of her other amalgamated versions. Gwen is a character that we've seen become an alternate version of Spider-Man and Deadpool, and both of those characters and versions of Gwen Stacy are pretty rad, I must admit. So I imagine her Wolverine version would also be tough as nails and fierce. Gwenverine also appeared on an alternate cover for Old Man Logan issue number 2 from 2015, with art done by Chris Samnee. If that art is any indication, like her other alternate versions before her, this would probably prove to be a pretty powerful and popular alternate version of Wolverine and Gwen, if, we saw more stuff from her. I just want to read a comic that's about all the awesome and powerful alternate Gwen versions running around in the multiverse together. Gwen Stacy's Adventure Through the Multiverse, it could be called, and Gwen could wander around and meet all the alternate, possibly mutant, versions of herself. Maybe they're all secretly mutants. That would be kinda cool. Just like how Deadpool or Gwenpool was secretly a mutant, maybe, or retconned herself to be a mutant. I love that, it's so weird. Number 9. Poison Wolverine. Poison Wolverine is the assimilated version of Wolverine from Earth 22186, who became bonded to a poison. Poisons are basically like symbiotes, except symbiotes are kind of their own thing over at Marvel, so I guess imagine a symbiote, but it's like a different symbiotic alien race. So not a symbiote, and kinda pointy and sharpy instead. Are you with me at all? The poison that bonded to Wolverine and took him over would have his powers and would also be able to use his biomass to shapeshift and give itself extra appendages or tentacles as needed. So this is a version of Wolverine who isn't in control as much, but does still have powers, plus can also shapeshift. Sadly, this version of the character did perish, not because it was defeated per se, but because the head of its hive, the Poison Queen, was vanquished. That's how it works for the poisons. Your queen is vanquished, you're dead. Number 8. WolverHam. Although he might not seem that powerful, WolverHam of Reality 73174 might actually end up being one of the most powerful? He is like an alternate version of both Spider-Ham, Peter Porker, and of Wolverine. Being that he's also kinda cartoony in origins, it's likely that his powers are similar to that of both heroes, meaning that he has probably a crazy healing factor, his adamantium claws and skeleton, and can pull off all sorts of immensely powerful cartoon antics, with cartoon physics applying to his fights and his adventures. I don't know about you, but I think having cartoon physics in play makes you pretty powerful. Cartoon physics are wacky. Number 7. Old Man Logan. Old Man Logan is still a badass who manages to get a lot done despite the fact that his healing factor sometimes struggles to keep up. In his old age, his healing factor is slowed down when we first get into Logan's future adventures in the post-apocalyptic wasteland that was once Earth. However, much more later down the line, his healing factor finally picks back up again. At this time, Logan no longer goes by the name Wolverine at all and is instead known as the Hooded Man. So this version of him is kind of weaker, but also kind of the same. Either way, Old Man Logan also brings years of experience and wisdom to the table, which I think should be worth something extra when it comes to how powerful he is. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more Wolverine lists or more mutant lists in general, haha, I love writing mutant lists for you, please be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up and clicking subscribe. Do all the things, woo! Number 6. Diamond Patch. Diamond Patch is the version of Wolverine from Warp World, which of course was made by Gamora when using the Infinity Stones to fold the universe in half. He is the amalgamation of Emma Frost and Wolverine, making him a pretty deadly and stylish character. His claws, instead of being adamantium, are diamond, and Diamond Patch also has a sharp eye and mind for good business ventures as well, like Emma Frost. He also seems to be able to channel his telepathic powers using his claws as well. It was also implied that in the future, Diamond Patch may potentially be destined to bond with the Phoenix Force. Ho-ho! Number 5. Wolverina. Wolverina is the female version of Wolverine and cousin of Wolvie or Wolverine from the alternate Earth of 89923. She works as a waitress at her father's bar, Bud's Sud, but is also a skilled fighter who was called in to replace Wolverine after he went missing. Wolverina also has leadership skills and could potentially make a good team leader if needed. More than that, while her powers are somewhat unspecified when it comes to what they are or how powerful they can be considered, Wolverina also is a self-aware comic book character, meaning that she knows she is in a comic book and can often use this knowledge to take charge of her own narrative and break the fourth wall with, reaching out to her readers. I think having that kind of power can be pretty potent in comics, which is why she makes the cut for our most powerful Part 2 list. And she didn't do too bad, she's about halfway up, so pretty impressive. Number 4. Weapon X. Weapon X comes to us from the Age of Apocalypse universe of Earth 295. Weapon X has powers similar to his Earth 616 counterpart, but his feral rages are more intense in comparison, and he initially requires Jean's assistance to calm those rages down, which was what brought the two together romantically. It would be in a fight with Cyclops when he made his way to try and save Jean Grey from Sinister that he'd lose his hand, while also taking one of Cyclops' eyes in exchange during the battle. A hand for an eye for a hand. That seems pretty fair, I guess. Weapon X would later go on, despite being maimed, to become even more powerful, possibly one of the most powerful alternate versions of the character, when he surprised everyone and ended up becoming Apocalypse's heir after his defeat and the return of the Celestials. During this time, he was known as Weapon Omega, though his newfound power would only end up being temporary. Eventually, he would have this power stripped from him by Jean and return once more to being Weapon X. Also, I think I cut off this hand, but I think it's actually this hand I think that he loses. I'm trying to remember the art. I always want to mirror everything, so that's why. I don't even know if it'll be the same for you though, because this might be mirrored for you. I don't know. I don't know. How do you see it? Aren't cameras weird in the way that we see images? Isn't that all weird when you think about it? Anyways, the fact that we see images and we flip them with our eyes, and it's all freaky. Number 3. Earth 10005. This is the Wolverine that belongs to Fox's Mutantverse, played by Hugh Jackman. In this reality, Wolverine was one of the strongest mutants around, being the only one that Kitty was able to send back in time in Days of Future Past, and the only one who was able to put a stop to Dark Phoenix when it had taken over Jean Grey, corrupting her in X-Men Last Stand. Due to his healing factor, Logan was able to walk right up to Jean while everyone else was pretty much getting turned to dust around him. He pressed forward, struggling to reach her, and then used the awesome power of his love for her to calm Dark Phoenix down enough for him to be able to kill her with his claws, bringing Jean back but also killing both her and the Phoenix. Really, really sad. That's some pretty powerful healing factor and some pretty powerful love factor as well. Number 2. Governor General Howlett. The version of Wolverine from Earth 12025 is James Howlett, and he's not just a hero but also holds the position of Governor General to the Queen of England for Canada. For those who might not be aware, the Governor General position in Canada acts as basically the go-between for Canada and the Queen or the Crown. They act on behalf of the Crown, and a few other nations actually also have this position. Typically nations who were granted independence from the British, as opposed to having fought against the British to free themselves from British rule, have this position. James Howlett of Earth 12025 not only was known as Governor General, but he's also known for having an adamantine laced skeleton, which is actually different from adamantium, so if you thought I was saying that wrong, I'm not, it's a different thing. This, instead, is a mythical type of metal belonging to the gods. This grants James an extra layer of protection on both a mystical and godlike level, which means it's very hard to mess with James in any way. James also travels and adventures when he can with his romantic partner Hercules, which means if you mess with him, you likely also have to fight Hercules as well. Both this number and number 3 actually both have the power of love. The power of love. Number 1. Weapon Hex. Weapon Hex comes to us from Warp World, which was created by Gamora when she folded the universe in half. Doing so caused all the souls of that universe, of course, to merge together, as we talked about with Diamond Patch, creating combined beings such as Weapon Hex, who is a combination of both Laura Kinney's X-23, aka Wolverine, and Scarlet Witch. She, as such, has the combined powers of both of these heroes, making her pretty OP, possibly even more OP than Amalgam's Dark Claw, though she doesn't have quite quite as much plot armor most likely. Then again, with those two power sets, she wouldn't really need plot armor. Which version of Wolverine do you think is the most powerful? Who is your favorite alternate? Are there any alternates out there who you'd love to see get their own series who of course haven't yet? And which alternate do you think is more powerful, Darkclaw or Weapon Hex? Let us know in the comments below. And speaking of comments, it's time to turn to some comments from one of our latest videos, top 10 most powerful alternate versions of Wolverine, basically the part 1 to this list. Tux YB exclaims, Darkclaw, unlimited plot armor. Plot armor can be so powerful because it just gets you out of anything. Culla Bowser comments, surprised James Howlett love of Hercules wasn't added. His adamantium skeleton basically makes him immune to molecular and reality warping, and that's an OP power. Yeah, so I actually thought about including him, but I just talked about him on another list, which is why I left him off of the part 1, but don't worry, he gets redemption because he's on the part 2, baby. CR Blankenship responds, I don't know about Wolverines that I'd like to see out in the multiverse, I just know that I really want to see Daphne Keene's Laura Kinney become Wolverine in the MCU. Well, I think the MCU counts as the multiverse, so I don't think you have to worry about that qualifier. You already said a thing, and I hope it does happen too, because that would be super cool. Give me Laura Kinney as Wolverine in the MCU, I'm into it. And that's all the time we have for comments today. Be sure to comment below for a chance to have your thoughts and opinions shouted out in a future video. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I am your host Amanda McKnight, reminding you to stay nerdy, YouTube. Number 3, Earth 10005. Is that 3? It's hard to say that many zeros and count them. 10005. Yeah, okay. Number 3, Earth 10005. Wait, was that too many zeros? Oh my gosh. I can do this. I can say 3 zeros. They're gonna use this whole thing, watch. They're gonna use this whole thing. I'm gonna look like I don't know how to say numbers. Which I don't, if anyone's watching this. I admit, I don't know how to say numbers. I've always been bad at that. Pretty sure I have number dyslexia, if that's a thing. I hate when I breathe. I wish I could just not breathe, but I need to do it to live.